Hello.
Good evening.
Hello everybody. Sunday evening.
It's John and
Michelle, I think. Last time I checked.
So for those of you who don't know who we are, Michelle is a practicing astrologer, one of the best in the country and the best in the world, I think.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yep. And she's also a life coach, an integrative life coach, and I'm also an integrative life coach. So our work is to help people guide them through the challenges, the problems, the ups and downs of life, and open up that little channel of peace inside us, that portal to love. So that's the work that we do. We have, Michelle has her own website, which is solarpower-power.com, and mine is johnhomewood.net. And then we have a joint venture, which is journeysofawakening.com, and we've got lots of information there. Please go on there, Journeys of Awakening, and have a look there. So that's a little bit about us. And tonight, what are we doing tonight?
We are going to chat about worry, because there's lots of that going around at the moment on many different levels. So we're going to just talk about that, and we're also going to be talking about protection.
Yeah, maybe we need some protection.
Yeah.
And at the end, Michelle will lead us through a beautiful guided visualization of protection, which we can use in our lives moving forward. So I think we're going to start the way we normally start, is by centering ourselves into the present moment. So shall we do that? If you can hear us, just send us a like or a heart or somewhere that we know you can hear and see us. It's always nice to know that we're talking to real people out there. And it's always nice to know your comments. So if you have any comments or suggestions, please let us have those as well. And also, we like to know where you're from. So again, if you can just tell us where in the world you are, which town, which city, which country, which planet maybe. Maybe we've got some aliens listening. So just let us know where you are. But welcome. We love doing these sessions with you, and it's so nice that you join us every week. And welcome to those new ones that haven't been with us before. And it's our way of sharing what we have in the world with the world. And I think one of the greatest joys we can ever have in life is sharing. You know, as my little granddaughter told me once when she wanted something from me, she said, sharing is caring. And that is true. Sharing is caring, and it really does open you up. Until I wanted something from her, and then the sharing and caring that didn't work then. But sharing is caring. You know, we know that when you give something, your serotonin level goes up, and the person receiving the serotonin level goes up.
Okay.
All right, shall we?
You're going to open for us?
Yes, so let's center ourselves into this wonderful, beautiful body that we have. So closing your eyes, become aware of what it is that animates your body. What is it that gives life to your body? What is it that allows the heart to beat? For every cell to live? For your fingernails to grow, for your eyes to see, for your ears to hear, for you to be able to touch and feel. What is that energy that animates your body? So for a moment, just bring your awareness fully on the inside into your body and ask yourself that question. Who or what animates my body? Who or what digests my food? Who or what repairs my body? If I have a graze or a cut, I don't have to concern myself with how to do it. It happens. So just settle into alignment with this energy. I'm going to give that energy a name. I'm going to call it being. Get in touch with your being. The being that animates your body. The being that allows you to be aware of this evening. It's aware of the chair you're sitting on. This being is aware of the floor under your feet. It's aware of where your hands are resting. Just relax your hands, relax your shoulders, relax your neck, and relax your forehead. Relax your eyelids, and just sink down further into your body and deeper into the present moment. And become aware of sound, become aware of hearing, become aware of listening. And become aware of the being that you are, that listens. The being that you are that interprets sounds. Makes them meaningful for your awareness. And give thanks for this alignment with life right now. And as you sit here tonight, just become aware of the stillness that underlies all the sounds. Become aware of the stillness that underlies all your thoughts. Become aware of the stillness that underlies all activities, and rest into that. Becoming aware of your gentle in-breath and the letting go out breath, and the slight pause between the two. Now take a deeper breath in, right down to your toes, filling your whole body up, right up to your shoulders now. And then a long, long sigh out. Breathe out all that no longer serves you. Let it go. And when you're ready, gently open your eyes.
Thank you, John. It was lovely.
How do you feel? You feel a bit more centered? A bit more at peace?
It doesn't seem like everybody's able to comment for some reason, because no comments are coming up. But I'm imagining that they're still hearing us, because they're still here, because we can see your little faces on the top of our screen. So we'll keep going. Not sure why they can't comment.
Yeah.
But thanks for joining us, everybody. It's really nice to see your faces and have you back here. And yeah, so we're going to address tomorrow's, obviously we're moving into a slightly different phase of this pandemic and this that we've been facing for the last couple of months. It's been quite a couple of months, yeah?
It has been. Hasn't time gone quickly? I said at the very beginning, I think in one of our first episodes that we had at the beginning of the shutdown, I said, with our electrical supply company in South Africa called Eskom, they've been going through a troublesome time and they haven't been able to supply electricity for some of the time. And when the electricity goes off in what they call load shedding, we say, oh no, the electricity's gone and the world has come to an end. And then maybe an hour or two later when the electricity comes on, we say, oh no, the electricity's come back on. Because we've got so used to the stillness that happens when we don't have electricity. And I said the same would happen with the lockdown. I predicted that. I said we would, this is terrible. It's the end of the world. We can't go and be busy. We can't go and be the human doing that we so like to be. And now as we're moving out of that phase, a lot of us, I think, are a bit reticent.
Yeah, I think there's been some big shifts over the last 2 months for many, many people. And I don't think it's going to go quite back to the way it was before. I think people are going to be more cognizant of time spent with family, special time. You know, the running around at the rate of knots doesn't really serve any of us. Certainly doesn't serve the planet, which is the one thing that's really benefited from this whole thing. She's just restored herself beautifully. So she hasn't missed us at all.
It's been a big reset. There's been a big reset for Mother Earth and a big reset for us.
Yeah.
And I believe that this was necessary, never mind from a virus point of view or anyone's agenda's point of view. I think it's been very necessary for us as a species to have a wake-up call. And to look at our lives and to look at what works and what doesn't work and to reassess the values that we live our lives by. We all live our lives by a hierarchy of values, and in the past we put maybe the wrong things at the top of our list of values, and maybe now we can rewrite that list and put things like peacefulness and centeredness and connection higher up that list, instead of the work and the doingness and the achievement and the excitement and the outcome. It's not about that, is it?
I think that's a huge lesson that a lot of people have learned. So I think it's a good idea to just reflect back on the last 2 months and just see what we've actually learned, how we've grown, what parts of ourselves we've seen that we might not have been aware of, or that might have come to the surface when least expected, out of the shadows, as it were, because this is almost like dark night of the soul, in a way. So it's brought a lot of stuff up to the surface, not only globally, but for each of us. So I think it's just to be cognizant of that and where what's come to light over the last 2 months. And it's not finished, it's still going to keep going, but it'll change now slightly. So
yeah. And one of the things Michelle has been speaking about for the last year was that as we move through this year, we're going to have the influence of Pluto. And, I mean, Michelle's the astrologer, not me. But what Michelle says is that that's like the plumber. It brings up all the slush and the sewage sitting on the bottom, all that we thought we had dealt with and flushed away, and it's actually stuck there in the psyche. And it brings that to the surface. So a lot of people have experienced fears and anxieties and worries. So tonight we thought we'd look at the subject of worry.
Yeah, we've covered anxiety before, a few weeks ago. It will be on our Journeys of Awakening page on the resources section, so you can have a look at that if you do experience anxiety. Worry is a bit different. We were talking about it this morning. And what I was saying to John is, for me, worry, having experienced both in quite large quantities throughout my life, and it's tailed off a little bit. It's actually reduced since I've been doing this work more and more. But worry for me is in the head more, and anxiety is more kind of in the body. It's more visceral feeling that is sometimes trickier to deal with than worry. So worries are often very clearly connected to worrying thoughts that are going around and round in the brain, in your mind. And we've spoken, I think it was last week, we spoke about our roommates, the troublesome roommate that's telling you about all these things that you should be worrying about at 3 o'clock in the morning, which isn't helping anybody. So,
hopefully by now you've all evicted that roommate for not paying rent, because it doesn't pay rent, it just taxes you no end. So why have it there in the first place?
Yeah, so it's just to see, we're just going to chat around it. But basically, there are a few tips that we can give you, that I can certainly give you, because I have dealt with a lot of worry in my life. But it comes from a different perspective, from different perspectives that we hold about life, actually, as well.
Yeah, it does. So my definition of worrying is praying for what you don't want. You're giving energy to something that you actually don't want to happen. And we know that whatever you feed, whatever you invest your awareness in, will grow in your awareness. And why do we do that? Why do we worry so much? Why do we focus on the bad stuff or what might go wrong in life, rather than the good stuff and what is going right in life? And the reason for that is because we're not in control. We would not knowingly and consciously do that to ourselves. But there's a part of us that actually thinks it owns us, and that's the egoic mind. That's the thinking mind. And as I said before, a lot of people don't even have a mind. The mind has them. It owns them. lock, stock and barrel, 2 o'clock in the morning, there goes the mind. And there's no usefulness in that process. So to understand that what worry does is it actually is food for the ego. There's nothing wrong with an ego. The problem is when the ego runs your life. Then you've got a very troublesome life and a life full of pain and suffering. And if you would now like to give up that pain and suffering, then we need to make that ego a vehicle, just a vehicle that we get in and we use and we get out when we don't want it. So we have to stop feeding it with these worrisome thoughts. And that's what we're going to look at a bit tonight. Yeah, we have about 60,000 thoughts a day. I counted them one day when I was bored. And 95% of those thoughts serve no purpose in the present moment whatsoever. They're not constructive thoughts. Oh, I need to pick up and dial a phone number. Okay, that's a constructive thought. They are constructed in as those of you who've seen that video of the Matrix. They build the story in our head that tells me who I am and how bad I am or how good I am. And this was my past and this is my future. That's what those thoughts do. 60,000 thoughts, almost all of them invested in a matrix inside your head, not based in reality at all. And those thoughts, the majority of those thoughts, 95% of those thoughts are redundant and superfluous, and all they do is feed the ego, generally with worry.
And I think that a lot of people have the thought that if they worry, it's a good thing because it means that they're responsible members of the human race. I should be worried about this, I should be worried about our planet. I should be worried about my daughter who's out late, or worried about her relationship, and because it makes me a good mother or a good daughter if I'm worried about my parents. But really, when you look at it, it doesn't do anything. It really doesn't. It just robs us of anything good that we have in our lives. So worrying can lead, having said that though, worrying can also lead to problem solving. Because if we're worrying about something all the time, in the moment that we're worrying about it, it's not necessarily going to sort out then. But if it's constructive, if we can say, okay, I'm worried about this, I notice it. I'm noticing that I'm worrying, that these are worrying thoughts going around in my head. And you can put time aside to say, okay, I'm going to address that tomorrow at 11 o'clock. So for me, I have a running dialogue going with my troublesome roommate, and I'll often sort of call her name by name.
What type of name do you call her? Can we repeat
Woe,
it on air?
Woe.
Oh,
Her name's
not,
Woe.
Oh, that's not a bad
W-O-E.
name. I thought it was going to be a terrible name.
It's Woe. Woe is me. Terribly worrying little Woe. And I often say to her, okay, well, you know what? I know that you're worried, but just park it for now. Go and play outside, and I will connect with you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. But right now, I would like to go to sleep. And that really helps, because then at 10 o'clock in the morning, when I sit down and actually address those worries that I've probably by that stage written down, because writing them down really helps. It certainly helps me, because it gets it out of all the busyness in the brain, in the mind, and it gets it out on paper so you can actually see what you're so worried about. Because when those worries are turning around in your mind, they're very unclear and very foggy and very confused.
And very repetitive.
And there's just all these wires all interconnecting with each other. So when you can get it out on a piece of paper and say, okay, what am I actually worried about? I'm worried about X, Y, and Z. Then the next day, when you're not trying to sleep, you can actually say, right, is there anything I can actually do about X? Yes, right, I'm going to do that. Is there anything I can do about Y? Yes. Is there anything I can do about the planet right now? No, not right now. So I'm going to give that one a miss. I'm going to park that. And I'm going to attend to the things that I can actually sort out or move towards sorting out. But when those worries are keeping you awake or making you very anxious and permeating your every waking moment, they're not doing you any good at all.
Yeah, and it's to realize that those worrisome thoughts are not really there to help you work out a constructive solution to a problem.
No.
Because what they do is they diminish your intelligence, they diminish your creative ability. They don't increase your intelligence. So just to know that they are substance for the ego. They are food for the ego. So when you are worrying, you're not being so much constructive as feeding an entity that actually is a bit mad. The idea that I am, as Michelle said, I am a mother or I'm a father and I have to worry about my children. Why? Why do you, oh no, but I wouldn't be a good father if I didn't worry about them. Really? You wouldn't be a good father if you didn't worry? You'd be a better father if you didn't worry. You'd be a more creative person. You'd be a more connected. You'd be a more intuitive, and you would know intuitively if they were in a problem or situation, and that creative solution would come to you far better than if you were in the worrisome mode. So there's a couple of thought patterns that we have that sit behind the worry. And one of the thought patterns is the thought that life is random, life is chaotic, life is just a happenstance. You just happen to be on the planet at a random time and space. You just happen to have children at a random, time and space in all of the cosmos. And that's one way that feeds the ego. And that's great if you want to look at the world that way. But it's quite a challenging way of seeing the world. The world, as we said, the word cosmos means order. There is order. There's order in the time and place of your birth, as Michelle can attest when she's doing an astrological chart. There's a purpose in your children being born on a particular moment, a particular minute in the day. There is order. There's order in every breath that you take. There's order in the metabolism of the body. There's order in the structure of the earth. And as such, we need to maybe adopt a new map of reality. Maybe we need to have a map that takes us where we want to go. Now, if we have worry on the one hand, where do we want to go on the other side? Peace, right? So we have worry and we have peace. Am I right? Mm-hmm. So now, does the map that the cosmos is in a total disorder and things just happen to happen when, things bump into this and that happens and then we have a whole ricochet, or do we want peace? If we want peace, we have to adopt a different map. Instead of just seeing the universe as a chaotic happenstance, we start to see the universe as perfect. We start to see order in the disorder. And that map will help you put aside those worrisome thoughts. So the map, I would suggest that everything is perfect. Every little thing. There's not a leaf that falls from a tree. The Bible says not a sparrow falls. Everything is in divine order. Everything. That's what Albert Einstein believed. And he said that he wanted to know the mind of God, and he wanted to know it mathematically. So that was he knew the perfect order was there, and his job was to see it with his human mind. And that is our job, I believe. It's very, very difficult to do that because our mind is so limited and the universe is so huge. But if you can, one of the affirmations I have, everything is perfect despite my limited perception or despite the way I currently see it. And then when the challenges come at you, when the situations of uncertainty arise, you can say, well, I can't see the order in this. I can't even see the solution in this. But I know that despite my mind, even this is perfect. Even this has a solution. And this solution is going to arise naturally and easily for me. And it does. If we believe, Henry Ford says, whether if you think you can't, you're right. If you think you can, you're also right. And so if you believe we live in a random universe, you're right. If you believe that we live in a perfect, intelligent, ordered universe, you will be proved right in that. And worrying will just get in the way of that perception. So one of the things I suggest for ceasing worry is to trust more in the process of life. Look at where you are today. What's it taken to get you here? You've had lots of uncertainties, lots of ups and downs, lots of accidental meetings, lots of unpleasant situations happen, and then, out of that unpleasant situation, something arose. And that same intelligence has guided you every single step of your way to this point will be with you every single step of the way in future. So that's one of the things that I suggest, is changing your map of reality.
Yes, and I think that part of that goes along with trusting that you're connected absolutely and that you'll get through it. Because I think a lot of worry comes from the fear that we can't actually handle what's going to come up. And when you have the perception of whatever happens, I'll deal with it with my connection, with my source connection, I'm perfectly aligned and mature enough and able to deal with whatever life presents me with. That's a very calming thing to tell ourselves when we're really worried, because that's very often the underlying thing, that buzz that's going underneath the surface is, if this doesn't work, you're not going to handle it, or you're going to get into trouble and you won't be able to deal with that. And when we can sort of look at it from a balanced perspective, we can say, well, so far I've managed to handle everything in my life. So why wouldn't I be able to handle that with this level of maturity that I have now? So I think that's also another element, another element.
And I think I mentioned last time, I mentioned the acronym OWL, One with Life. Now, most people are having a war with life. They're always creating drama, creating problems and challenges and things to worry about. And that's because they haven't made friends with life. They're not comfortable with life. Life is something that you have to fight, continually fight. This is a mistake we made in science. We think we have to subdue the earth. No, we don't. We have to learn from her. She's our mother. We don't just subdue our mother. We have to learn from her and grow through that. And so it is with life. So a wiser way of living your life is to be one with life. And align yourself with the flow of life, knowing that there is purpose in each and every moment of your life. And that opens you up to a different level of consciousness. Suddenly you see doors where there were only walls before. You see solutions where there were none before.
Yeah.
And if you don't see a solution at the moment, you don't worry, because you know the solution is going to be there when the time comes. When the absolute time comes, the solution will be there. So you can, worrying is something that I used to do a lot in my earlier life. And I think it cost me my hair and made me look 110 when I'm in fact only 30. And that's the result of, it ages you. It really does age you. So why do it? I mean, it's the most redundant thing out, worrying. Yeah. It really is redundant. Do not do it. There was that wonderful comedy we saw on, who was it who said stop it? What was that?
Oh, that's lovely. We was trying to put it up there.
And who was that? It was famous.
Lennon.
No, it wasn't. It was the other guy.
Comedian.
He just said, stop it. Whatever the psychological problem was in his patients, he was playing the role of a psychologist. He said, just stop it. Whatever it is. So I'm going to say tonight, just stop it. And rather choose differently. Choose more wisely. Choose peace instead of fear. Choose peace instead of ego. Choose love instead of that worrisome mind of yours. And there's some tools we can give you to help with that. Yeah. You have some tools?
Well, the writing it down's one, definitely. I think that's one that definitely works.
Gets it out of your head and onto a piece of paper.
Even if you do suffer from insomnia or not being able to sleep at night, then it's a good idea to even have a little notepad next to your bed and actually rather get the worries out and then go to sleep. Because as long as they're there, you're not going to sleep. Unless you can practice bringing your attention back to the present moment, which does help, which will at the end. That's obviously the first prize. If that's not working, but generally it does work. But if there's a lot of stuff going around in your head and it's just all a mush, then it's better to actually get it out. Also to talk it through with someone. That's really good. But to be quite selective on who you talk it through with. Because if you talk it through with a warrior or somebody that's in an anxiety spiral, guess what's going to happen? You're just going to go further down the spiral of it because you're going to feed each other. So rather speak to somebody who is kind of pragmatic and who can give you some another way of dealing with it. I remember a few years ago, I was sort of going around one of those worry spirals and not sure what I was doing with my life and what I should do and how I should get out of a situation that I was in that was rather troublesome. And I remember phoning my cousin, my dear cousin, and he said, okay, so what's the problem? So I started going into the story. He said, no, just give it to me straight. Number one, what's the problem? So I gave it to him. He said, that's not a problem. We can deal with that. Number 2, what's that? And I gave him 3. They were big. And he said, okay, so is that it? Is that all? You can deal with, this is how you could deal with this and this and that. And so had I phoned somebody that was not that way, I would have actually landed up going further into that spiral. But he literally just lifted me straight out of it and made me see that a lot of the worries that I was worrying about, they were kind of potentially problematic, but they were solvable. And as soon as I could speak to someone else about that, I realized that, because a lot of the time we over-catastrophize things. So we look at the worst case scenario.
Yeah.
We look at the negative instead of possible solutions. Because when we're in that worry spiral, we are not seeing the positive at all. So it's a good idea, if you're going to talk about it, talk to somebody who's actually not in that spiral and who's hopefully got a view of the world that everything's in perfect order and that you'll get through it.
Which you will.
Yeah, which you will.
There is nothing that you won't get through. You know, you will even die successfully. I mean, no one's died unsuccessfully. Everyone's managed to get that through. So don't worry. I mean, what is there to worry about? But just to realize that if you are going to take Michelle's advice there, which is a very good point, speak to someone who doesn't thrive on drama.
Yeah.
Otherwise, their ego will be ignited by your problems, and they'll add a million other problems that could possibly go wrong to the few that you were thinking about. And when you get off the call, or when you want to go and slit your wrists, and no, that's not. So you find someone who doesn't have such a big pain body and who doesn't live in drama. And some people, I mean, my bookkeeper, maybe she's even watching tonight, Cheryl. I don't know if she's here. She loves drama. I mean, she just feeds on drama. She's not so bad now, maybe. She's learned a little bit over the last few years, but Cheryl today is a lot calmer than she used to be. But boy, she used to love drama. If you want a problem, just give her one small little drop and then it'll become a big problem. Wonderful woman. I love Cheryl to bits, but she did love drama. But that was when she was feeding her pain body, and I think she's moved beyond that now. She's had a lot more life experience. And it's so you can actually talk to her today about a problem and she doesn't amplify it. So that's beautiful to have.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people grow hugely when they have big pain bodies, because the pain body, and it's connected with worry. It's one of the ramifications, I suppose, of a pain body, is that it eventually gets so bad that you can't bear it anymore, and that's the point at which you just say, "No, I can't do this anymore. I've got to look at this in a different way, because this is just not serving me."
Yeah.
So having a big pain body is not a sign that you're not on track or evolved or evolving. It just means that that's something that is standing in the way of you actually finding some freedom.
Yeah. I think more people become enlightened who have heavier pain bodies than people who have light pain bodies, because when you've got a heavy pain body, you suffer more. And suffering will never make you enlightened, it won't. But what it does do, it takes you to a doorway. And above the doorway there's a lovely big sign, a big neon sign above the doorway. It says surrender. And if you really have a roommate upstairs that you can't live with anymore, eventually you go to that doorway and you walk through that, you give up. And that clears the mind, as we spoke about on Wednesday. That's meditation, when you clear the mind. And it's to realize that most worrying is done to amplify the ego, and it's done because of an addiction, an addictiveness to thinking. We're addicted to problems. We're addicted to thought, and all addiction comes from pain and leads to more pain. You will not sort out challenges and problems and drama by adding to it with more addictions, whether it is the thinking addiction, or working addiction, or drinking addiction, or smoking addiction, or eating addiction, or spreading bad news addictions, whatever. We all have these many addictions there. But to understand that worrying is an addiction, and it will lead not to solutions, but to more pain.
And sometimes I think that we get validated for worrying, as we sort of mentioned a little bit earlier on, where you're a good mother if you worry, but if some of us have been in businesses and jobs where I know I was, I was the one who, if something went wrong, they threw it at me and I caught it and worried about it. And everybody knew that it would be fine because Michelle was going to worry about it. We didn't have to worry about it. So I validated myself by actually taking on everybody else's worries. Didn't know that I was doing that until much more recently, when I realized that it's not my responsibility to worry about the world and everybody else, or to necessarily solve everybody's problems. But there's a certain amount of validation that people even get. She's responsible because she's worried about it, and it's totally and utterly not true. But it does often happen.
That's right.
Yeah.
To go back again to understand that who worries and what worries is the ego. Okay, so it feeds on that. And Wayne Dyer, a wonderful teacher, he said that ego, the acronym for ego, is edging God out. You've lost connection with life, with the divine intelligence, and you think it's all up to me. So I need to worry. And so the opposite of ego is to become one with life, and trust in the flow of life. Life beats your heart. You don't have to worry about, am I going to remember to beat my heart tonight? Am I going to worry to breathe? How do I digest my food? These are all vital human processes that we don't worry about, that life takes care of. So why would life not take care of all those other mundane things that are going on in your life? It will, but you need to get out of the way. You need to get your worrisome mind out of the way. And why do you need to do that? Because if you're focused on what you don't want, you're giving energy to that. And that confuses the hell out of life. It says, but I want to give you the goodness of life, and you're busy focused on the badness of life. And we have that, what's called free will within us. We can get in the way of life. We can upset the metabolism in our body. We can create dis-ease within our body by moving away from ease. We can change our heartbeat by becoming anxious and becoming fearful. We can do all of that. But if we are willing to hand over to this incredible intelligence called life through the process of trust, there's something called grace that flows in and removes the obstacles and provides you with the right situations and circumstances and people that will assist you to move through that particular challenge. Believe in miracles. They are real. They really are real.
Yeah, so another tool is the breath, and dropping from, this is my perception, dropping from the head to the heart, because the head is where a lot of worry is. As I said, I think anxiety is different. I think it's more in the body, but worry is here. So when I can drop from the head to here and soften and breathe and just bring attention back to the breath over and over again, the worries start to dissipate. They start to become like background noise. Almost like there's a TV in another room. It's there, but it's not like it's not here. So you put space in between it, especially when you come back to the present.
Yeah.
Without doubt.
Yeah. So I like that. The biggest cure for worry is space.
Yeah.
We started this evening going into that stillness. That stillness is space. So by bringing your awareness out of your head and dropping it into your breathing, you're creating that space within you.
Yeah.
And the space is between your awareness and the thought.
Yes.
That's where the space is. And the more you're able to increase that space, the more peace you experience within you, and the more that you have, the more you've opened up a gap for the light to flow in and for grace to flow in. It can't flow in when you are blocking the door with this thinking, worrisome mind. But if you open that, you have a shower, you go for a run, and you just let go of the problem or situation, suddenly there's a solution that flows in. It happens all the time. So breathing is very, very powerful. Becoming aware of your thoughts. So you are the awareness that has the thought. You're no longer the thought. You're no longer the worrisome father or the worrisome businessman or the worrisome mother. You are now aware of the thought.
Yes.
And that awareness is the space that Michelle was pointing us towards there with the breath. Very powerful.
Yeah, it really does create space. And as soon as you create space from them, they become less overwhelming. They lose their power. It's like you pull the power plug out of them and they no longer have power over you.
Yeah.
They're there, but they're not, you know,
Yeah.
so what? It's just,
Yeah.
oh yeah, it's that one again. And, you know, you can easily see it. As the more you actually bring yourself into that alignment, the less that mind will go mad like a pendulum going from side to side. So it always does boil down to a similar thing, but it's because that's what works. That is what works.
Yeah.
And, you know, for thousands and thousands of years, people have been meditating. And it's not just because it doesn't work. It's because it does work. And it's the only way through, especially challenges that we find ourselves in.
Yeah,
because we don't know what the future is going to hold in many respects. I think this lockdown and this pandemic thing has been very difficult for control freaks who thought that they were in control of their lives, because they've suddenly realized that they're not. And they don't know what's going to happen as a result. You know, is it going to be over? Is it going to come back? Am I going to get sick? So a lot of people are very concerned about getting sick, or their families getting sick, or not having enough money. There are many, many, many different layers to this thing. But all of them are making each one of us face ourselves in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, so if we can do that with grace and with consciousness and awareness, as soon as you bring consciousness and awareness to a worry and anxiety and emotion, it starts to lose its power. It just does.
Yeah.
When you feel an emotion fully, you become fully aware of it and feel it fully, it will dissipate. If you ignore it completely and repress it, it will not dissipate. 3 days later, you'll have a screaming match with someone, or you'll feel depressed, and you won't even align it to what actually happened in the first place. That first little emotion that you just pushed down and have maybe been pushing down for your whole life. So it's the awareness to actually connect with the emotion, the feeling, the thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, awareness is never suppression. Awareness is just awareness. I mean, awareness is actually the opposite of suppression. So you're not talking about suppressing your thoughts. You are stepping back to the consciousness behind the thoughts. And you're saying, well, there are the thoughts, but I'm actually here. And I am life. I am the cosmos. That's who I really am. I am eternal. So you can think of this almost as driving a car, and you've got raindrops on the windscreen, and you put on the windscreen wipers and they just wipe the windscreen clean of all the drops. The drops are your thoughts, and when you choose to wipe them away with what I call presence, suddenly your vision becomes sharper and clearer.
It does.
Meditation wipes the mind. That's what it does. It's the windscreen wiper of the mind. And then through that clarity is a greater level of intelligence that arises within you, or that you have access to, that is able to resolve the situation in ways that you could never comprehend before.
And the busier, a lot of us, and I've heard myself saying it in the past, I haven't got time to meditate. You do. And if you think you haven't got time to meditate, then you really need to meditate. Because it means that you're going from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and you're not actually having a break in between. And you're just feeding that anxiety and that worry all the time. So you really do need to then. And meditating doesn't mean that you have to sit cross-legged for 3 hours. You can sit quietly on your veranda with a cup of tea and just be quiet and just notice the thoughts. So it differs for most people. It's lovely to do a formal meditation, but you can lead up to that. But, don't let meditation be the thing that stops you from meditating. Rather just, if you want to call it relaxation, call it that, but make time for it. If it's 10 minutes, that's fine. And then to infuse your day with that. So when you see your mind going into that worry spiral or that anxiety spiral, you just notice it. You say, there it is. Okay, stop. Breathe. Right there, you just stop and breathe. And you just keep bringing your attention back, like you would a little child. If she was going close to a hot flame, you'd say, no, sweetie, come back. You're going to come back. You keep doing that until it just becomes the most natural thing. And those worries just don't feature as much.
Yeah.
They kind of become backstage players.
Yeah.
As opposed to
they don't control you
lead
anymore.
roles.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And then two other energies which you can work on, which dissolve worry fantastically well. And these are feelings which you can create inside yourself. It's a feeling of gratitude and a feeling of joy. Joy for what is in this moment. Now we know that the world works not by physical objects but by fields of energy. And if you are, for example, a worrisome mother, your worrisome energy is going out, the child is picking it up, the environment is picking it up, and you're attracting situations, circumstances to be in alignment. It's called sympathetic resonance with those worrisome thoughts. But when you start to feel grateful, I'm grateful that my children are always protected. I'm grateful that I'm always guided and protected each step of my journey. You feel that gratitude within you. What vibration are you feeding into the field now? What set of future circumstances are you drawing towards you that you're going to meet? And when you feel joy, you have to be in alignment with life. You can't feel joy if you are separate from life. When you're one with life, owl, you are directly connected to joy. So joy and gratitude are two powerful emotions to rather invest your awareness in rather than that fearsome, troublesome, worrisome mind.
Absolutely.
Joy and gratitude. Very, very powerful. So just to summarize what we've discussed, first of all is to create a new map of reality. Instead of seeing life as random and chaotic and just happenstance, my future just like may happen this way or may happen, see that there is a perfect plan to your life. Know there's a perfect plan to the universe. And you're part of that. You're not separate from the universe. And exchange your plan from just happenstance, chaos, to perfection. And if you want to understand more about that, come to Michelle for an astrological reading. She can show you the perfection in your life. There is perfection. You are born on a perfect day, and you will leave the planet on your destined day. Not a moment before and not a moment after. You do not have to worry about that.
Yep.
That's the way it is. And then the breath. Becoming aware of your breath takes you out of the head into your body, back into reality. And trusting life, that's the other one we gave you. And then the gratitude and the joy, you bring that in. And if you start to practice those tools, your life will change immensely. Do not feed the ego with egoic, worrisome thoughts. Let that go. The ego, if you don't feed it too much, it'll probably starve.
And it's funny enough, humor can actually help too. Because when we can actually see that troublesome seeking, worry-seeking mind, I used to call mine my worry missile. It was like I had missiles fired, like ready to shoot out to see what I could actually worry about next, because I used to be in production and there was always something to worry about. And as soon as I saw that I had these missile-seeking things going out there, I could laugh at it and just say, that's ridiculous. I don't need to. I don't have to worry about that. I don't need to waste my energy on that.
Yeah,
so it's humorous. You can actually be quite humorous with yourself.
Yeah. To be light. Don't we want to be
light
light workers? Well, lighten up. Lighten up. Life is not that, life is not that serious. Take it a bit lighter. Yeah. It really is. Yeah. And anything else on that?
No, I think that's it. And then you wanted to just talk about protection.
Yes, I don't want you to worry about anything. This is not a worry situation. But a couple of people have spoken about this and asked about it. And it is, Michelle spoke last year in her talks about the changes that we were going to be going through this year with the planets that were becoming conjunct. Pluto and Saturn and Jupiter, yeah. And that's beyond our control. But really what a lot of astrologers were predicting last year was that we're going to experience a war. And although we think it's a virus, it isn't a virus. We'll probably find out in the end it was never a virus anyway, but that's another whole point. But there is a war. And the war is really between light and dark. The war is between fear and love. That is the war that's going on planet Earth at the moment. We are being programmed to become more fearful, to worry about a virus, to worry about dying, to worry about economic collapse. We have to wear a mask over our face that's going to protect us from a virus. I mean, someone said it's rather like building a chicken wire fence to keep out the mosquitoes. Anyway, that's another whole story. I believe that there is a war going on, and we need to be mindful and to bring in the light to protect ourselves from being drawn into the darkness. The darkness cannot really attack you, but you can be drawn into it. Darkness has no power other than the power that we give it with our ignorance. If we shine our light, if you walk into a dark room, you don't have to worry about the darkness. You put on the light, and the light has no energy, has no power. But we need, the darkness has no power. But we need to switch on that light. And one of the ways that I find is very effective, in fact, we do it before every single one of our talks that we do,
every single time,
is we always sit quietly and we call on light workers. And the ones that I'm very comfortable with, and Michelle's always comfortable with, is we call on the angels and the archangels. And if you look, we live in such a complex universe. In the Kabbalah, you have the tree of life, and you have these nodal points. And we right at the bottom, on the outskirts, the furthest projection of the divine into the world of form, we sit right here. And right in the middle, much further up, you get what's called the angelic energy. The angelic energy has never been human. It can't be human. We're the divine's greatest expression of energy, consciousness into form. And they sit way up there, but they anchor in energy. They cannot interfere with our experience, but we can call on them. And the very first time I called on an angel, I didn't even really believe in this. I thought, let me try it out. I was on the way to a business meeting, and it looked like it was going to go very, very, very badly, and I was going to react maybe badly. And I just called on this angel in the middle of it. And what transpired was truly mind-blowing. There was a flash of white light in the room, and his computer with all the information on blew up. And that was the very first time that I called on that energy. It's a real energy. It's powerful energy. So before we start any gathering that Michelle and I do, we always call on this energy. We see it as a beautiful white-blue bubble around us, and we project that out to all those that come and listen to us. And there are many methods you can do for this. The method is not important. The technique is not important. Don't get caught up in, the 12 grids and this and that color, and I need to bring in this color now. None of that's important. It's the feather in Dumbo's trunk. If you remember the story of Dumbo the flying elephant, and he had big ears, and the mouse told him to hold this magic feather in his trunk, and if he held that, he could fly. And then one day they were flying, and the feather dropped out of his trunk, and he started plummeting back to earth. And the little mouse said, no, but it was never the feather. The technique is secondary. Your belief in it is primary. Your belief in that light, in that protection, is powerful. If you need to have a sacred book with you, a Bible maybe, or a Quran, or a cross, or whatever, crystals, incense, all wonderful. They all help. Use that. But not for one moment do it to diminish your power. You are all powerful. Nothing can touch you if you know that to be so. And so what you do when you sit and when you call on protection, you know it from your heart. It's a knowingness in your heart. And you're calling on the angels not to do it for you, but to amplify this knowingness in your heart. You are protected. But it is important to do that before you go to sleep at night, when you wake up in the morning, when you go into any activity, when you're going out into the world. Call on that protection. It's there for you. It's not there to interfere. It's not there to take away your free will. It cannot do that. It's part of the light. And the light will never diminish or reduce your free will. But you call on it, and it will instantly be there for you. And you will be protected. It's important at this time, I believe, to anchor the light around you as a bubble. And, a blue, beautiful Archangel Michael is the chief archangel, and he organizes the other ones. They're not humanoid as we would think they are, and we can picture them that way. It's great. They're actually rays of light, rays of consciousness. And the Archangel Michael one is the blue ray of light. And you call on that. And I say, use your sacraments or whatever you want to use, that's fine as well. But have the intention that you are protected. You are protected. And if you know that, there's no darkness, nothing can come into you.
That absolutely works.
Yeah. And you must understand that viruses are energy vampires. They have no life of their own. They've got to feed off you. And if you've put this wonderful, beautiful light around you, that is going to prevent any energy vampires from coming into you.
A lot more than a mask.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
Okay.
So is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I think that's it. I could tell lots of stories, but maybe that's for another day.
Yeah. We can amplify that quite a lot.
I think it's a subject that we can
explore
chat
more.
about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So worry not. Be not
not
afraid. Know that I am.
Yeah.
That's important. Yeah. So shall we ask Michelle to lead us through a meditation, a guided visualization to help us dissolve the worries, the troublesome mind? Let's do that.
A short one because we're nearly out of time.
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to lean forward because my voice gets soft apparently. All right. So just settle in. Make yourself comfy. Let your eyes drift gently to a close. Take a lovely big deep belly breath in and a releasing breath out. And just feel what this does to your body, just the breath. So another deep belly breath, blow your belly out and then bring that breath all the way up to the top of your chest. And then a big sigh out through your mouth. Let it all go. And a third breath in. And on the out breath, release the tension in your body. And now just allow your breath to be normal. Allow yourself to be breathed by this amazing life force. You're not trying to make the breath different or deeper or longer. You're just allowing it to be there as it is. That's it. And you might notice some voices, a voice, some thoughts coming into awareness. Notice them. And then just see if you can put a space between yourself and the thoughts or the worries. So imagine that they've been banished to another room and bring yourself back to your breath. And you're just focusing on the breath coming in through your nostrils. That's it. You're not having to do anything. And if your mind wanders again, you bring it back again to the breath. As many times as you need to. Just keep coming back to this moment. This moment that you're being breathed, that your heart is beating, that your blood is flowing. This moment, nothing wrong with this moment right now. Drop your awareness from your head. Allow it to drop into your heart. Plop into your heart. Into the middle. Imagine there's a beautiful pool. A little, sort of a very gentle little pool of water inside your heart. And just drop into that like a leaf, resting gently on this water, calming, peaceful, connected. All is good, all is well right now. Breathe into that heart of yours, soften it. Open it more, Imagine in that little pool of water, imagine a beautiful flower just floating there ever so gently, beautifully open to receive the light, petal by petal. Nothing to do, nowhere to go. Connecting with how you feel right now. And breathe more into this flower in your heart. That's it. And now before we go, we're going to surround ourselves with a beautiful egg, light egg. You choose the color. Get a sense of what color you would like this beautiful protective egg to be. It's exquisite light that surrounds you and protects you and comforts you, keeps you safe. So wrap that beautiful egg of light around your precious self. And just sit within that, knowing that you're protected, knowing that you're loved, knowing that you are love, and that all is well. And bring your attention back to your breath. Take a lovely deep breath in. Fill up your lungs. Connect again with your body. Sitting wherever you're sitting. You might want to rub your fingers together. And when you're ready, in your own time, gently open your eyes.
Thank you, Michelle. That was beautiful, wasn't it? Beautiful. Thank you.
We're going to do a card.
Yeah. And just in that energy, we'd like to send you from our hearts a special blessing for all of you who have worries and concerns. May this blessing dissolve those worries and concerns. May you know that you are guided and protected every single moment as you are. Thank you. So we have an affirmation for you for the week. Tomorrow night, those of you on our Journeys to Freedom course, we have our Zoom meeting at 7 o'clock. And then Wednesday night, 7:30 till 8:30, we have our satsang. Half past 7 till 8. We have our meditation on Wednesday night. Yeah. So I'm going to choose a card tonight. I'm going to choose a blue one.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
And this is a lovely affirmation for us to work with in the week. It's I radiate peace. Peace is the opposite of worry, isn't it? So I radiate peace. That was a card chosen randomly from a very big pack. So I'll photograph it and put it on our WhatsApp group. You're welcome to join the WhatsApp group. If you're not on it already, you just go to journeysofawakening.com and there's a link there to join our WhatsApp group.
This is a really good one. And even if you're not feeling peaceful and you are worrying, if you say that, you actually start to radiate peace.
Yeah.
I know.
And the blue colour is Archangel Michael, so there's a bit of protection there for you as well. Yeah. Thank you,
everyone.
bless you. Have a wonderful week as we step into, what is this, level 3
Something
of
like
the
that.
lockdown. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go well, may you be blessed.
Sleep tight, everyone.
Yeah. Love you lots.